Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to Crochet Witch Tarot, and we are doing the second part today of a super fun tag created by Marlene and Theresa here on YouTube, and that is Tarot to the Extreme, which I was so excited when I saw that she came out with a second part to this because I had so much fun making the first one. So, without further ado, I think we should just get right into it. So, Marlene gave us six more prompts to do, and the first one is modern versus vintage. If you hear scratching noises, that is Stevie causing a ruckus. So for my modern deck, I chose the Superlunaris, and I think this is probably my most modern looking deck. I'm not really typically drawn to that style. I tend to either lean towards kind of vintage looking decks or just animal decks, but this is one that, I don't know, just seems to work really well for me. This is the linen edition. I love the linen cardstock. It's different than any other linen I feel like I have. But I also don't really tend to jive with too many decks that have so many people in it, very people-y decks, which actually I feel like a lot of the ones I'm showing today kinda do. Yeah, this is definitely, I would definitely say this is my most modern one though. It's interesting though because you do kind of get a mixture of settings here where it's like this one feels very fairy tale, and so does this one, kind of that vintage look a little bit. But then there are definitely figures that are more... Now it's not going to show up. Is this really like a modern deck? Or was this just as close? No, see, okay. See this? That's very modern looking to me. So, Superlunaris is my modern deck, and my vintage is the Carte Postale Tarot. Now this deck was made using actual vintage photographs, I believe. So of all my vintage looking decks, this one really feels the most vintage, probably because it's really drawing on that actual energy, I suppose you could say. I really like this one. See, this is another one though, very people-centric. But I really like that it feels like you're shuffling a pile of someone's old photographs, which I think is really cool. Now, as Marlene says, the most fun part is seeing the pair side by side. So of course we're gonna do that. Oh, I should also say, I suppose, that I challenged myself to only choose from tarot decks today. I don't know why. Probably because that's what Marlene did, and so that's what we're doing as well. Ooh, I kind of like how they look though, huh? Really interesting. I almost feel like I have a hard time saying that name so many times in a row. I love this lover's card. Superlunaris has almost like a star seed portal kind of energy. This one for sure for me has an ancestral feel, but putting them together, it kind of makes Superlunaris feel that way as well. But in a way where this is like spirits trapped on Earth, and this is, I don't know, spirits in a different realm almost. I'm kind of liking how they're working together. Yes! Oh my gosh, wait, look at that! This is neat! I might have to use them together. Pretty cool. Okay, so we have Superlunaris and Carte Postale as my vintage versus, nope, other way around, modern versus vintage decks. The next pairing is new moon versus full moon, and I just thought this was the coolest idea. So what I gathered from this prompt is kind of looking at what deck makes you think of that new moon energy of kind of digging into the shadow a little bit, doing that deeper inner work, versus the full moon where it's like things are kind of coming together, you're seeing that whole picture, things of that sort. So I'm looking at it as, I guess, the ways I tend to feel during these two opposite moon phases. So the new moon, I do definitely look more into that inner work, that shadow kind of work. And for that, my favorite deck to use is the Somnia Tarot, which I feel like is a common use for this deck, but it really works so well. This makes me think of that new moon energy for sure. Because with this deck, it just feels like, with the faces being covered, it's almost like looking into the things within ourselves that are a bit covered, that we're not revealing. And I just feel like this deck is kind of, it is shadowy, but in this interesting landscape that feels really light and open, and something about that just really works for me for that kind of work. So this is one I definitely look towards for that kind of new moon energy. And for the full moons, I tend to be exhausted. I don't know about anyone else, but I am always so tired when it comes to the full moon that I don't really tend to do much around the full moons because of it. So I typically want, if I'm doing readings, I want it to be comforting and familiar. So I tend to go towards my northern animal. This is one I've gone to a lot for moon readings. I'm not exactly sure why. Aside when it comes to that full moon time and I'm tired and I just want something that I know I'm gonna understand easily and is a bit comforting looking as well. It's all mixed around naturally. See, why do I background? And I don't know what it is that makes me think of just moon energy in general when it comes to this deck, but it really does make me think of that. It could just be that I've used it a lot for moon spreads. But this is one I go towards a lot in the full moon. I think also because with that full moon energy of things coming together, kind of closing some things out, I really want a deck I feel knows me well to work through those feelings of closure, I suppose. Bringing things to an end. And also looking towards what I want to do next. Okay, let's look at these together. I'm really excited about this pairing. I think it's going to be interesting. So we've got our new and full moon. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't think I love these together. I think it could be interesting. Almost in like a seeing northern animal as inner world, Somnia as outer worlds kind of thing. Like a imagination versus reality. I don't know how that relates to moon work. But that's just where my mind went seeing these two together. Not my favorite pairing. But that's okay. Because they're extremes. I love both of these decks though. Aren't they so good? Oh, that is cool. Neat! Excuse if I feel like usually I'm talking fast. If I'm speaking slow today, or just talking oddly, I have a bit of a cold right now. But I can't sit still, so I wanted to do this video. But the brain fog is real. Anyway, that is my new moon and full moon pairing. Next up we have cute versus creepy. And of course my brain instantly went to the cute and creepy tarot, but we didn't bring that one out because we're trying to compare two decks here, not one that covers the category. So for my cute deck, we have the Whispering Spirits Tarot by Joanna Nelson. I mean, when it comes to the cute category, I feel like Joanna Nelson she's got it down. Because these decks are so cute. Look at these characters. And something about these little ones in the Whispering Spirits just feel especially cute to me. I do still have and love Mons Tarot, and I have the little bug as well. But I don't know, something about these expressionless faces, I love so much. Look, look at them. I don't know what they are. Every time I see them though, I feel like they're little like teeth monsters. Oh my gosh, I just got an image of, you know, in what's that, Pinocchio? When that guy's playing, is he playing like a flute or something and luring all the children to that island where they turn into donkeys? Follow me here. I just got an image of like this being the tooth fairy, and this is how she actually collects the little teeth. Anyway, besides the point. I just think this is the cutest deck. It's just the cutest deck. I have many cute decks, so it was kind of hard to choose, but I feel like most of my cute decks come from Joanna Nelson, so we had to pick one of hers. And this, I don't want to pick favorites, but I feel like this could be my favorite of hers right now. So, Whispering Spirits is my cute deck, and for creepy, we have the Madame Lydia Tarot. This, I feel like, is just, it's creepy in such a fun way, which is what I really enjoy about it. It's very, I don't want to say it's very Halloween-y. I feel like this is one that I'm gonna have out pretty much all winter long. I love this deck. It's a very specific mood I'm in when I want to read with it. I don't even know how to describe what that mood is, but I'm really glad I have this one. I really enjoy how a lot of the characters are wearing masks. You can see she's got a mask on here. Something about that is always really interesting to me. I feel like I tend to pay attention to how many masked figures I have in my reading, where their eyes are just a little bit obscured. But this deck is undeniably creepy. I mean, look at this ghost, man. I want to get to that. There's a card where there's a bunch of like doll heads hanging from a tree. I feel like it's the Six of Cups, but now I'm not sure. Let's see if we can find it, because it's just so funny. We didn't already pass it, did we? Maybe. Perhaps we did. Nope, there it is. I mean, come on. That's pretty creepy. I love it. Okay, let's look at them together. This, I already know. I'm not gonna like it. I'm just not gonna like it. but we're gonna look anyway. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's definitely a juxtaposition there. That is undeniable. I don't know. I don't think I ever see myself using these two in a reading together. It's very funny looking at them together though, isn't it? Yeah, no, this is not it. It's not the pairing. So, those are my cute and creepy decks, the Whispering Spirits and Madame Lydia's Tarot. Our next extremes are the on my table versus in my bag. So, the deck that is always on my table is the Wildwood Tarot. And this is for many different reasons now. It is one that I really enjoy to read with. It's become a really big part of my own spiritual practice, so I really use it in that way. Which is the main reason why I would really tend to kind of have a deck out all of the time. And this has been it. But I'm also doing the Year in the Wildwood. Oh, what would you refer to it as? Like, journey? Question mark? I feel like there's a term for it. Yeah, I would say it's like a... I have the book A Year in the Wildwood, and it takes you through... The regular guidebook, I think, does this as well, where each of the different cards is associated with a different time of the year. So I have these cards out, and I pull out the ones for the corresponding dates. So, for example, right now we are in a time of the King of Stones, Three of Stones, and the Fool. So I have those out, and I kind of work with those energies for the time period they are meant to be. But, as I said before, I do also do a lot of readings with this deck. So this is probably the only tarot that really stays consistently out. It stays on my altar space. The other deck that is there with it is my Fairies Tarot, no, not Tarot, Fairies Oracle, the Brian Froud Fairies. Since I tend to, not strictly I want to say, but for the most part I use these two decks for my spiritual practice, which, not that there's a hard line between that and like reading tarot otherwise, but they're a very specific purpose, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, this is the one that is always on my table. Hi, Stevie. Yep. Yes. Can I continue? Oh, you're sitting down? What? I would really enjoy to keep making this video. Would that be alright? Or do you need attention right now? She has sat down quite literally in the middle of this surface I have here. Excuse me. Scoot yourself along, please. Thank you. Okay. Now, back to our scheduled programming. In my bag, if I'm bringing a tarot deck somewhere with me, which I don't often do necessarily, it kind of depends, but my go-to travel deck is my teeny tiny tarot. Certainly if I'm traveling, this one is coming with me. But it's such a good mini size. It's a very straightforward reader for me, which I really enjoy. And I just love Holly Oddly decks. I really do. I feel like for that reason too, it's also just a comforting deck for me to have around. Something about her illustrations just feels comforting to me. And if I'm traveling, I do tend to be stressed about the fact that I'm traveling. So it's nice to have something like this around. And again, it's just that nice mini size. It's easy to throw in a bag. Otherwise, I don't tend to keep too many mini decks around because for my everyday readings, I don't really tend to use mini decks for whatever reason. So, this is the deck that's always in my bag. Let's take a look at them together. I think this will be interesting. I should say too that this Wildwood is heavily trimmed, which is why it looks kind of smaller. It's like not even that much bigger than this mini deck, but it's because I trimmed the borders off. Oh, I kind of like this. I don't know. Something about it is kind of working. I like how we have the really illustrated picture with the more pared down images on the Holly Audley deck. That's, I think, what's really working for me. I think it could be super interesting to like pull one Wildwood card, especially since you just get so much from the books for just one card. One of the Wildwood cards and then like 2 or 3 of the teeny tiny tarot I think could be really cool. Let's look at that actually, since we're playing. Oh yeah, doesn't that look neat? I really like how that looks. I am pleasantly surprised, I have to say. I did not think these would really pair super well, but I like it. I like how that's going. Awesome. Okay, so that is my on my table versus in my bag, and we have the Wildwood and the teeny tiny tarot. Next we have realistic versus fanciful. Now realistic was also a little bit difficult for me to find because I tend to like my decks to be a bit transportive and to be in those magical feeling worlds. But I do think I found one, and that is the Gaian Tarot. Now this has very realistic looking people. I feel like it's all scenes that could be happening in real life. This is the best. That's my favorite. So cute. Yeah, I would say this is a realistic deck. For the most part. I feel like what I enjoy about this deck is that it does feel like these realistic scenes, almost like everyday scenes made magical. So it's kind of that happy in-between for me, where it's not getting too realistic, because again, I just don't really tend to jive with modern feeling decks, because when I'm going to tarot, I want to be in a magical world, you know? I love this Child of Water. So probably not the most realistic deck, but thanks. Thanks so much. Please don't sit. What are you doing? You're not talkative today, huh? You're a bit in the way. Okay. Alright. Okay. Move along, please. Anyway, but I do feel like the pictures are painted in a way where they could almost be photographs. That's kind of how I was looking at this prompt as well. So that is the Gaian Tarot, and that is my realistic deck, and my fanciful deck is the Victorian Fairy Tarot. This feels like my most transportive deck. reading with these cards makes me feel almost like shrunken down to this fairy size and able to exist in this fairy world. I feel like the illustrator just did such a good job of bringing us into this world and into each of these scenes. Something about the point of view, like looking onto this, I feel like I could just hop right into that nest. And of course, since we're in a world of fairies, it is undoubtedly fanciful. And I love it. My copy is a bit wonkily bowed. It's like bowed on a diagonal, so if anybody has tips on how to flatten things of that sort, definitely let me know. I can't say I've put too much effort into trying, so it's not that, but you know, if anyone has a surefire way, it'd be cool to try once and have it work. So that's where I am with that. But yeah, this just feels so transportive, which is how I saw the prompt of Fanciful, is like, I want to be brought into a magical world. I think these are going to be really neat side by side, so let's do that. Because again, the Gaian Tarot does have that touch of magicalness. Oh yes, this is cool. I love these together. It's not a perfect pairing per se, because there is the different realms of this being definitely much more modern day and this set in the Victorian era, but I do like how these images work together. Super cool. Alright, so that is my realistic and fanciful decks. Okay, last but not least, we have quiet versus loud. Now, I tend to personify my decks when I use them, so I took this to mean a deck that feels like it speaks to me a bit more quietly, and one that is definitely coming out bold and strong. So, my quiet deck is the Future Ancestors Tarot. And I say this one feels like it speaks more quietly to me, I think because of the muted tones, the softness of the pictures. It feels like when I pull cards from this deck, it always feels like a reading I need to sit with for a bit. The full amount I can get out of the cards I pulled isn't always immediately apparent. The full message, I should say, almost feels like it gets drawn out of the deck slowly. It's one you gotta think about a bit. Or I find, I should say. And again, I think it's really about the color tones, the softness of the people. It just feels like it's a very soothing, quiet kind of deck. This is one that I tend to sit with and mull over for a bit before I put the cards away. So, that is my quiet deck. And my loud deck is most definitely my Trionfi Della Luna. This is the illustrated pips. This deck feels like, not that it's yelling at me, but I don't know, the characters in these images just feel really boisterous and loud, and it's when I pull the cards, immediately I'm like, oh, okay, loud and clear, that's what it's trying to say. I don't have to think about it very long at all. It's very direct with its message, and it's gonna get its point across to you however it can, kind of thing. It's not really kind of looking to give you a slow message that reveals itself over time sort of thing. It feels to me like it's gonna tell you what you need to hear, and it's gonna tell you right now and very bluntly. That's how it feels to me anyway. And the characters are just funny. I don't know. They feel like loud characters to me. Like, I feel like everyone talks loudly in this deck, where Future Ancestors, I feel like everyone speaks a bit more quietly. So let's look at them side by side. I think it'll be pretty interesting. I do think they could be an interesting pairing, even using them in the way where I just described, where perhaps pulling from Trionfi Della Luna first to get the immediate message of, like, what do I need to be looking into right now? And then using Future Ancestors as a, how do I do that? Alright, well, I guess I talked longer than I planned because my battery died again. You know, I don't think I'll ever time that quite right. That's okay, we're back. I do actually really like this pairing. I might have to try this out. What do you think? I don't know. It's kind of working for me. But anyhow, this was my last, this was the last prompt. So quiet versus loud, we have Future Ancestors and Trionfi Della Luna. And I think that's that on that. So I hope you all enjoyed. I love this series of tags. Hopefully there's even a third one. We'll see. But yeah, I hope you are all having a wonderful beginning to your week.